Whittly, what's up? Benefit Spongers, how's it going? Yes, this week I've used a slightly different camera angle because variety is the spice of life. Also, pepper is good and chili. I'm not going to do Q&A this week again. Sorry, just because I'm actually tremendously behind schedule. It's been one of the busiest weeks I've had ever, probably. But not that stressful because I've had homemade quiche that I made to eat, which has been delightful. But yeah, it's been mental this week. What have I done? Obviously, Game of Thrones abridged on Monday, and then on Tuesday, on Monday evening, I watched the conferences for E3, and then on Tuesday in the day, I made the Microsoft abridged conference, which went up on Tuesday afternoon, and then started work on. No, actually, then I went round to play the Star Wars RPG, which shut up and sit down, and then on Wednesday morning got up early to edit together that with some sound effects to make a Star Wars RPG podcast thing, which went up on Thursday, and then also on Wednesday I did the EA abridged, which went up. And then on Wednesday evening, what did I do on Wednesday evening? On Wednesday evening, I recorded regular features. Steve came over. I then recorded a video about Call of Duty that I recorded with Steve Hoggerty, which should hopefully be up early next week. And then we recorded another little something else, which is a bit of a throwback to... we basically recorded a kind of little Matt and Steve's Amazing Week thing. If you don't know what Matt and Steve's Amazing Week is, then you're going to be a bit confused, bemused by the whole thing. Then we recorded Dark Souls, which is up. And then I went to bed, a very, very, very tired man, and got up to do yesterday. Yesterday was when I finished the Ubisoft... No, did I? You know what? I've completely lost the plot. I've lost my marbles. I'm doing a lot of stuff, but it's coming together well and people like it, which is great. I'm really pleased with that. But man, I'm juggling a lot of stuff at the moment, and it's been a very, very busy week. A little update, I'm really annoyed actually. Last week I was like, FTL video will be up this week. It would have been up this week, but then something went horribly wrong. And the fact that I fit all of the stuff I fucking filmed was out of focus, and not just a bit out of focus. Like, not just like, oh, it's a bit out of focus. It was like horrendously out of focus. It was blurry as fuck. And I was sitting there going, oh, it's all right. It's just rendering. It'll come up in a minute. And I was just like, and I suddenly realized that it's like, hang on a minute. I was like, hang on, that's not a rendering blur. That's not like pixelated. That's like a perfect blur. It's like a lens blur. And I was like, yeah, that was really bad. But however, I did. When I was on, I actually kind of went for a very short holiday away with the guys from Regular Features, just get a little break, get some sunshine. I think you'll agree it's done me a world of good, to be honest. I feel a lot better. And I'm trying to actually make sure I get out of the house on a day-to-day basis now, which is good. But he suggested the idea of using a bike light to kind of provide a kind of flashing light. So I got this. Well, I already had this flashing light, but it means that you probably can't see it because the bright light on this side. But yeah, you see there? A very, very gentle kind of diffused, like, just red light there. Now, basically, what I did was, because it was such a good idea, what I then did is I then made it so that in the spaceship there's a red light flashing, which is flashing on stuff within the spaceship at the same time sync to this. But that may have been a huge waste of time because I've realised that maybe this doesn't actually... It might not be mechanically timed to be relevant enough. It may be... We'll see. There may have been a huge, huge waste of time, but if it does work, it will be awesome. And I've promised myself that after this, I will not be doing this again immediately. I know, right? It's been fucking ridiculous, but it is a real labour of love. This FTL spaceship. I think you'll end up seeing it used more than once. I think it will be used in a variety of things whenever I need to be in a spaceship, basically. But my God, it's looking awesome. I'm so proud of it. It's probably one of the best things I've ever made. It's not really my specialisation though, so that's not saying much. It's not going to be like, whoa, because it's not really what I do, but I've had a real whale of a time making it. It's been great. But yeah, everything, I'm happy with this week, like everything's been coming out. Next week we will continue with the abridged stuff. I've got Ubisoft, Sony and Nintendo. I really feel bad about doing Nintendo because I thought their presentation was just badass and also really funny. They obviously knew it was funny. Although some could be said the same for EA. I don't think they killed a dude bro. An old lady killing a dude bro without a real sense of tongue-in-cheek and that. Especially show at E3, I was like, that's smart. Like, that is funny. That's kind of quite a grown-up sense of humour for a games conference thing. But yeah, everything's going pretty well. But man, I'm tired. I've been working hard, and this afternoon I'm going to go and surprise my brother, which would be nice because I don't see him very often, and that'll be really nice. So I'm in a massive hurry because I've got to go and catch a train to Manchester just to see my brother for the day and then come back. And then I'll probably be working on the weekend on the rest of this stuff, catching up with it. As I say, this idea I've got for this, the video I filmed with Steve the other day is kind of really nice. It's kind of it's a joke to do with Call of Duty trailers, and it's to do with the fact that Call of Duty trailers are always the same. And I kind of like to try and be a little bit subversive with jokes, just if I can do it a way of taking the mick out of things in a way that it doesn't appear to be taking the mick out of things, like by, I've done this in the past by if you have something, a source that isn't credible, like praising something, then yeah. But I think it's a smart idea. I think it's a fun idea. And I don't want to spoil that because I think it's a fun little gag, and it shouldn't take too long to make. I've actually spent half the day making it already, but I've realised it's like, I'm going to miss the train if I fuck around anymore, and my house is a state, like, mentally messy, because my girlfriend's been away for a few days, and it's like, I need to actually tidy up before I leave, because it's like, it's really bad. So, yeah, it's been one of those weeks. But next week, be back on track, back to normal things, and I've already got a backlog of questions from last week, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I'm amazed we got Dark Souls in this week. I didn't think we were going to be able to just because everyone's so busy with stuff. But we did, so I'm happy. I'm really happy with that. I mean, the other final thing is like the abridged stuff. I found that fascinating. I might talk about this a bit more next week, but yeah, it's been really hard this year. Like the Microsoft conference was so dull. Like, and it is this weird thing in the fact that it's like I kind of sort of. I've become a bit insecure about what they are, why the abridged conferences are funny, because it's like, in my head, I think I know why they're funny, but then I realise that other people like have different readings, and I think I've cut it down to two things. Like, some people like the silly voices and the silly jokes, and basically like the element of humour, which is just to do with comic timing, noises being quite funny, and just generally like kind of that kind of just things making you smile. Like, but then other stuff, people really like the kind of cynical, kind of pointy jokes, the stuff that's taking the piss out of the shows. But it's really difficult, like, and actually I found myself in a situation with the Microsoft one where I was like, there's nothing to take the piss out of here. Like, the only thing to take the piss out of in the Microsoft conference was like all the games basically looked like over the shoulder third person shooters, and all of the trailers and all of the gameplay demos just felt really similar. But I don't know, I kind of felt like my biggest problem with the Microsoft conference was just the fact that I personally was bored to fucking shit by it, because it's just like, you know what, like, I realise that's fine, but it's like I am not the target market for who they're aiming for. I'm not the Xbox core market anymore. And it's funny how I see lots of people saying like, oh, EA's conference was definitely the worst. And it's like, well, they didn't show a lot of new stuff, but most of those games there, like, yeah, like, I really can't wait for Star Wars Battlefield. I think that's what's it called? You know what I mean? Star Wars, fucking Star Wars, man. That's going to be awesome. The Sims 4 looks sadistic. I cannot wait to play The Sims 4. It looks brilliant. Like, I mean, all jokes aside, it looks great. Like, and I can't wait to make some videos of that as well, because it's all about manipulating people's emotions and fucking them up and making them die because they've laughed too hard. It's like, yeah, I'm going to have some fucking fun with that because I'm an evil, evil cunt. But yeah, I thought it was alright. Golf with Battlefield, why not? Why not? Fucking shit. But the Microsoft thing, yeah, it's alright. I mean, I'm sure the Fable thing will be alright, but the big worry with me is it's all just this online co-op stuff, It's like, oh, fucking hell, like, I don't really like doing online co-op. I mean, if I want to play an online game, I tend to play an online game, I like playing Dota. Like, if I want to do that, I have that experience, I'll do it, but I kind of like to have some own time in my head, and I don't know, it just feels like they're really heavily going into that, and maybe that's just the future of AAA console games is this online co-op thing. I think there's some interesting reasons for why that might be. I think mostly to do with marketing and stuff, but that's a conversation for another time. So yeah, apologies for the shorter update video this week. And as I say, I will be back on track soon. I've actually scripted something. I've scripted a video for, obviously, the FTL thing is all scripted. I just need to reshoot all of the fucking scenes. I'm an idiot. I need to reshoot all of the scenes. And then I need to shoot the actual main VO that links between it. Yeah, hopefully I'll get that done next week. It depends how much of the week's taken up by these abridged videos. I might stagger the abridged videos and have some of them coming out like the week after next week. Because some people are just going, make more, but it's like, well, fuck you. It's not the only thing I do. So other people want other stuff. So, that's what it is. But I've also done a video thing for Transistor. I haven't actually like started that yet, but I've scripted something about Transistor, which is just like, it's very basic. I mean, it's basically saying Transistor, is it good? Because it's like, I've played Transistor, I've finished it, I think I've got some interesting things to say about it. I think it's quite a good game for some reasons. I think other things are slight failures in it, but it's like, I don't know, it kind of feels a bit irrelevant in a way. Like, this game came out 3 weeks ago, here's what I think of it, but I don't know, I'm never going to be able to keep on top of that, because the only way I'm going to be getting like pre-release review stuff up is if I have all this contact with PRs and stuff, and it's just way too much time at the moment. So hopefully you'll like that. People said they wanted more specific stuff to do with games, but also, yeah, just trying to do more fun stuff should be good. Looking forward to getting to more one-off stuff in the future. Need to play some more bloody Wolfenstein so I can talk about that. But yes, everything's going quite well. I'm very pleased that people seem to be liking the abridged videos. Don't know how much longer I'll do the abridged videos for. I've got to be honest. I mean, like, a few people were saying to me, like, oh, difficult second album. It's like, this isn't even the difficult second album. This is like the difficult fucking third or fourth album. I must have made about 6 of these videos already now, 6 or 7. It's like, yeah, like, it's getting tough. It's getting tough. And not only is it getting tough, but I'm starting to feel like I'm losing sight of why they're good and what and having to rein it in. And I think I've actually had a bit of I think I've regained some sight of that. But it's difficult. Like, if you keep doing the same thing, it's very easy to fall into a pattern, very easy to fall into a comfort zone with it. And it's also the fact that it's like, it's really difficult I find, to draw that line between anything that is a series based. People like it because there's a sense of familiarity, and people enjoy that. They go, they want to know what they're going to get, So I think that the trickiest thing with sort of conference abridged videos now is making sure that I kind of managed to tick that box of having something that when people watch it, they feel like they've got what they came for. They've got something like that feels familiar, and they get that sense of like, I clicked on this because I wanted this. Hey, that's what I got. But also keeping it fresh, and also keeping it so it doesn't feel like it's just really trite, and doesn't feel rehashed, and doesn't feel like it's just like, there's just Matt Lees making the same fucking jokes over and over again. But I find the reactions to it really interesting, particularly because, a lot of people, when they watch the Microsoft one, when I was watching the Microsoft conference, I was like, there's nothing here. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. And I knew it was going to be a struggle, but I kind of thought, no, come on, buckle up, do it. It's not going to be your best work, but make something of it. Like, see how good you can make it. I kind of thought, oh, good Lord, I'm in the dark. Sorry, my light on top of my camera has just run out of batteries. I'm just going to rejig. Hang on one sec. Watch this. Ba-ba-da-ba-da. Hey, oh God, now you see the truth. You see the truth of the matter. I am effectively like Nosferatu or something. Sorry, I'm just going to tweak this positioning. Sorry, this is very unprofessional. This is really... wibbly. If you're listening to this on an audio file, then you're going to be so confused by this. But, hey. Is that in focus? That's not in focus. There we are. Sorry, I'm really, really close to the camera now, and I still look kind of weird. But anyway, I'll wrap this up. But what was I saying? Yeah, I was saying basically it was the thing of it felt like I knew it wasn't going to be my best work, but I thought it would be an interesting challenge. I thought I will make it the best that I can make it with the resources. And unfortunately, because there was very little things to make jokes about, there weren't any strangely dressed people, there weren't any terribly awkward catchphrases, there wasn't any guy jumping up in the air and shouting Peggle 2. Like, it was just loads of game demos. And to be honest, like, I'm not saying the games are boring, but the demos were boring in my mind. I mean, maybe they just didn't interest me, but I was like, what the fuck do I do with this? And I was almost tempted to ignore it and just go straight to the next one and just start doing EA and think, fuck it, I'm not going to do Microsoft. But it's like Catch-22. I'm like, well, I can't not do it. Because if I don't do it, people are going to say, do it, do Microsoft. And if I go, well, I'm not going to do it because it's shit, then it's like, well, people can still want it. So I figured I'd do it, I'd treat it as a personal challenge. And that's the main reason I like to continue doing the abridged theme, because it's quite an intensive and difficult formula, and it's quite hard to get right. But I enjoy the challenge. I enjoy the fact that it continues to be difficult and continues to be like, what can I do with this? What can I do with this? I'm just staring at the same piece of footage over and over again and going, where's the joke? What's the joke? And not just where's the joke, but where's the joke that fits? Where's the joke that's going to fit into this bit and then flow into the next bit nicely? Because it can't be all the same tonally. It can't be boom, 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 boom. Otherwise, it's just too much. So I enjoy the whole process. But I found it very funny when people were kind of almost criticising and going, it's not good, this, it's not very good. And it's like, well, yeah, it's fine. Like, it's kind of like people's going, this isn't nearly as good as last year's. And it's like, well, no, it's not. But they can't all be, Not everything you do can be your best. And I kind of understand that. And I find it interesting how a lot of people don't seem to get that. Like, people want the consistency, they want the familiarity, and I understand that. But at the same time, it's like, well, not everything you can do is going to be your best work. And sometimes the problem is, if you're fairly adept at making things, or you're fairly adept at least at understanding your own, products and your own processes and how you make things, you're going to realise early on when you're making something that it's not going to be as good as other stuff you've done. And if it's like you never make anything, because as soon as you started to think, this isn't as good as the last thing I made, you just be like, well, I'm not going to do it. And that'd be crazy, right? Like, so you kind of just, it's one of those things where I think you've got to accept as part of the creative process that it's like, it's waves, and it's just like, some things you're going to make are going to be really good, other things you're going to make aren't going to be as good. It's literally just the way it works. And I just find it interesting how, like, not, obviously I'm not ignoring the people who are going, this is shit, this guy's a dickhead, but it's people who are clearly fans of what I do, but okay, not as good as time. It's like, well, just try and, I kind of find it interesting. I think there's a real lack of appreciation for process and creativity and how things work, and I think that kind of fascinates me a bit, because I think it's like, I'd like to see a world in which people were slightly more educated about that, and people might maybe just thought about it a bit more. And I think the only way for that to happen is for people actually like to try and make things themselves. And you kind of like, it's only through when you start doing things yourself, you start to like realize that actually like things aren't as easy as they look. And you go, God, like, yeah, I think the classic example of this for me was always BAM. When I made the first BAM video, which you haven't seen, it's pretty funny. It's butter and jam advert. It's really lo-fi, but I still think it's really funny. It was probably the first video I did that kind of went a bit viral, but the first video, it took an hour to make, an hour and a half tops, I think, an hour to an hour and a half. And that was, we already had the idea, but basically we just started filming, and an hour and a half later, I'd finished the edit. Like, it was just literally film, edit. We all sat around the computer. When we watched it back, we were laughing our heads off. And that's when I kind of thought, I've got something good here. And the fact that we were watching what we just edited, and we were just laughing. We were almost in tears, because we'd had so much fun doing it as well. But, yeah, that was so easy. An hour and a half, the whole thing, an hour and a half. And it, it did pretty well. I got like 20,000 views. It was back like 6 years ago. It was amazing. It was like the best thing I'd ever done by a huge margin. But then a couple of years later, tried to make another one, tried to make Christmas BAM. And I was like, well, it will be really easy, won't it? Because it took me only 2 hours to do it last time. Like, it will be so easy. I'll just do it again. But then you realise that when you've done something once, like trying to then recreate the formula, hell, it must take about 20 hours of editing to like, it was just like, like you don't realise how difficult it is to recreate something, when you've like struck gold with something, to recreate the feel of that, to bring it back. Good Lord, it's difficult. So yeah, I found the whole thing very interesting. I think that the reactions are quite interesting, and it's just like, you sort of think, yeah, of course it's not as good. They can't always be that good. But hey, I think the only thing that I'm not really worried about it though, because that's the thing is like, what I'd say is it's like, if you have a consistent decline, then you've got a problem. Like, I think personally that having like a kind of a variance in terms of quality is just natural. Like, it's just going to happen. But if it's like, if you start to look at my videos and go, oh, hang on a minute, like these are consistently worse over time, like they're just, everything's getting worse, then yeah, that's like fair enough. Like, but everybody does, I guess. But yeah, for now, I think it's probably all right, because I think the EA one, I was kind of annoyed by that, because it's like, well, I don't know. Well, I know why. It's because the Sony conference and the Microsoft conference are the big ones. So regardless of the quality of the videos, the Sony and Microsoft Abridged videos are always going to be the ones that will get the most traffic. But it's a real shame, because it's like people are less interested in watching EA's conference Abridged. But I think it's one of the best ones I've ever done. I really do. On a kind of technical and joke-based level. But hey, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, man? But yeah, I just find this stuff really interesting. And just looking at the way people react. And it's like, you have to take it on board, because I mean, the options are like, you either think about what people are saying to you, and you listen to criticism, and you try and understand where that criticism is coming from, or you just ignore all feedback. And you can't do that, I don't think, because as soon as you start to ignore all feedback, you get into a really weird pickle. And I can kind of see why people get. I can kind of see why when people get like actually famous, like properly famous, they get a bit weirdly alienated, and a bit like they become like these weird islands, because it's this odd thing of being like, when you start making things that are popular, you have people around you, you have people in real life, your friends and stuff will say, it's fucking awesome, it's so good, and people will congratulate you for it. But then when you have situations where you're consistently doing something quite successfully, like as I've had with the Abridged thing, like as soon as it was like I'd already had the video that had millions of views, and then they were consistently getting like hundreds of thousands or 100,000, like it means that the people around you, your friends and stuff, stop kind of congratulating you on your work. And that's for two reasons, really. And one thing is like I guess people feel like, well, you already know it's really good because it's really successful. And also it's because obviously, like, I don't know, over a period of time, you naturally become very modest about it. And like people go, oh, fantastic. And you're like, oh, yeah, it's all right. Because you don't want to blow your own trumpet. And it feels really awkward when people are always saying good stuff. But then you get this weird gap where like people in real life stop complimenting you on your work. And then it means that you're completely basing what people think about your work on feedback from the internet. And the issue with that is that it's just very hard to read and very hard to work out what's what, and that goes both ways. Sometimes it's like, lots of people can be like, this is amazing, it doesn't necessarily mean it is amazing, like, but then at the same time you can have people saying, this is crap, this isn't very good, and you're sitting there thinking, I think it is quite good. But it's like, maybe you're right though. I think because it's very easy to just ignore these people and go, no, fuck you, whatever, like you're just being a dick. But if you do that, then you could be missing out on the fact that they might have a point, and you might just be your work isn't as good as it used to be, and by ignoring the haters, like you're like, you might be missing out on some valuable feedback. And so I try and take it on board. But then the problem is, of course, when you start actually looking at lots of this critical feedback, it's impossible not to get a bit critical about critiquing the points that they're making and being like, where are you coming from with this? And trying to understand people's mindsets, because unless you can understand the mindset of your critics, their criticism isn't that valuable. So I spend a lot of time being like, wow, is this meaningful feedback, or is this trash? And it's kind of that thing of being like, meh, 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 meh. But it's that that weird thing, and I can see it being in real life. Like it's an odd thing. You can trust the feedback of those around you. The people around you will always tell you the truth at first, but then you kind of get to a point where people stop doing that in a weird way. And I guess I now feel and sort of know that people I know in real life, because they deem to me to be very successful in terms of what I do with this stuff, that they would probably think, even if they watched some of my videos and thought they weren't very good, they probably wouldn't say anything, because they go, well, I didn't think it was very good, but clearly it still is because it's very popular. So it's just interesting. You lose, you start to get floated out. You're kind of like, no, not an island, but it's like you become like a sort of buoy on a string that's just gently moving away, and you end up in this weird situation of being like sort of disconnected from the people around you in terms of critical feedback, and more reliant on the audience. And it's just very difficult to gauge anything with that, and it's a terribly tricky, slippery slope. You've got to be careful living on the internet, even though I know at the end of the day that the only people that really matter are you lot, benefit spongers. Or, if you're watching this on Monday, or somebody who is a fan of my stuff, that's relevant as well. But on a week in, week out basis, the people who are actually, continuing to kind of fund the work that I produce, that you guys are the only people who actually matter, because it doesn't matter if there are thousands of kids who don't like it, because they can go and do something else. That's fine. But anyway, sorry, this has been horribly self-indulgent, but I find it interesting. I've had an introspective week, I think. E3 always makes me introspective, I think, because it makes me question where I'm at, what I'm doing, whether what I'm doing is good, or whether what I'm doing needs to be kind of like refined. and also just makes me question my place in the industry and the industry in general. So I think it's one of those weeks, you think about things a lot, and especially when you working long hours and not getting enough sleep, you start to be a bit like, I just have to have mental thoughts. But I'm in a good place. I just find this stuff very interesting. I find it interesting. I'd like to make a video at some point, which would just be not to video games. I'd like to make a video which would be called something like the 15 reasons you think this video is shit, and just basically talking about that and talking about that process of like the fact that people won't ever really question. Like, I think that people often will slag off critics. Everyone's a critic, as they say, but people often don't think about the process behind these things. They don't think like, why? They don't think about their own thought processes. Like, I don't think this is good. Why don't I think this is good? And there's so many reasons. It's like, it's as simple as it's not to my taste. But sometimes it's like, well, I'm not in the same mood, or like, when I saw the original thing, I was with some really good friends and we'd been having a great time. We were drunk, but now it's like, you don't like people. I think people often don't question their own mental processes when they're trying to work out whether or not they like something. They kind of go, oh, well, I really like the first thing, but this thing doesn't really make me happy in the same way. And it's like, I think you've got to look at lots of factors before you can come to a decision on whether or not that means it's better or worse, which makes reviewing games that are sequels an absolute fucking nightmare. So it all ties into the same thing, really. I mean, all this stuff I'm talking about, it's quite relevant because I think it really ties into the reviews and how reviews work and stuff. But I'm just fascinated by it, I think. Because, as I say, I don't think... People always say don't read the comments, ignore what people are saying. But I think you do. If you want to be... if you want to maintain relevance and quality of what you produce, then to ignore external feedback and to ignore like what people think and what people say is just an incredibly dangerous route to go down, because before you know it, you can become bubbled in an ego trap, especially with what I do here. Come on, like, I know I've got a little bubble of a lot of you guys watching are like very big fans of my work, and I fucking love you for it, and I love that I can put in these ridiculous little in-jokes and stuff, and you'll love them and you'll get them, and that's awesome. But at the same time, if I exclusively, whilst I know that what you guys think is the only thing that really matters, if I exclusively just listen to the feedback of people who always love what I do and don't ever take any notice of any external feedback, then that will eventually, and at a basic level, it may not degrade the quality of my work, but it will turn me into an arsehole. And that is something I'm keen to avoid. Anyway, I may not be a full-on arsehole, but I've definitely been a self-indulgent arsehole this week. And I apologise for the lights breaking, and I apologise for the fact I'm not doing a bloody Q&A. Rah! But I'm doing my best anyway. And I will see you next week. Have a lovely weekend, and now I'm off to bloody get on a train. Bye!